So on the vocabulary number one, from scratch, when you make something from scratch or when you start from scratch, that means you start with almost nothing, or you start with just what you have at your home or on you. And what it means is, like, let's say you are hungry, you want to make dinner, you don't really have anything at home, but you don't feel like going out, you don't feel like going shopping. So you just make something from scratch. So from scratch means you have just a little bit of resources or materials to use, and then you make something from it. Usually, from scratch is it's a really old expression from maybe like the 1950s. Yeah, and during wartime, when households were a little bit poor, they would have to just kind of make whatever meals they had from scratch. So you had some extra things here and there, and you'd put it together and make something to eat out of it. So we say, like, let's say if you have a startup company, a really small startup company, and you had almost zero assets and zero capital, you can say you started it from scratch. Or if you had nothing at home to cook, but maybe you found some flour and some butter and milk and salt, you made something from scratch. So you just found random things, just a little bit of what you had at home, and you made something from it. Number two, dot the I's and cross the T's. That's a way to say that you should make sure that you pay attention to detail and you finish every little thing. Dot your I's, cross your T's. So when you make a small I, make sure you dot it. When you make a T, make sure you cross it. And they tell you that since you're in elementary school, about how to write in English, right? Dot your I's and cross your T's. So it's a very old phrase that teachers even told you. However, whenever you get a job in the US and you have to write a report, they tell you things like that. Make sure you dot your I's and cross your T's. That means make sure every detail is perfect before you turn it in the final report. Number three, consistency. Consistency is basically how logical something is. If it makes sense, if everything seems to work together and have a sound, like a sound story to it. So when there's a crime that happens and there's an investigator who's investigating that crime, he's looking to make sure that the stories are consistent or that they have consistency. So he interviews each person. What happened? Oh, this person said this and this person did this. And then he goes to the next person. What happened? Oh, this person did this and this person did this. If every person's story is consistent, and if it's consistent with the scene of the crime, then they're all telling the truth. However, in the investigation, if one person says something different, that's when they find out that there's a crime. So consistency is how logical it sounds. Everything should be the same and should make sense and be together. So, if somebody calls in to work and says that they're sick, and they say, "Oh, I'm really sick today. I can't make it," and then I'll go to the doctor. I'll see you tomorrow. And then they come in the next day. Oh, what did the doctor say? What did the doctor say about what? So if they forget that they said that they were going to the doctor, maybe they weren't sick. So maybe their story was not consistent. Number four, add in. It's just when you include something extra into something. And then number five, go around, is to say that you are going to many places. I go around town. We'll often say stuff like, I'm going around town today. Like I have to go like very far and go all around these different areas. When I teach in Seoul, I go around town. So I go around to Gangnam, Yeouido, things like that. Number 6, make sure, is just to make something certain, and that is our vocabulary.